those girls should have never been in that courtroom. I don't know who thought it was a good idea for those young ladies to be in that courtroom as their father's life has been put on display. No, let's be for real.
He detailed his encounters with Diddy and Cassie, and he talked about the fact that Diddy liked to pleasure himself while watching Daniel and Cassie doing their thing. This was so graphic, apparently. Diddy's 3 daughters twice got up and left the courtroom. He talked about baby oil.
It's truly heartbreaking to see Diddy's daughters walk out of the courtroom when things got too graphic for their sensitive hearts. It's hard to fathom how anyone could put their children through witnessing such disturbing allegations. Apparently, Diddy's team warned him against bringing his younger kids to court because of the intense nature of the trial, but he insisted on having them there for the sake of his public image. According to insiders, Diddy's daughters are really struggling with the exposure. They're reportedly experiencing panic attacks, being bullied, and spiraling to the point where they've had to schedule therapy sessions to cope. The question remains, did they actually witness their father putting his hands on their mother, Kim Porter? Are they beginning to understand the gravity of what happened? Let's dive into this. It's fascinating how some men, like Diddy, suddenly turn to religion and present themselves as loving fathers when faced with the most heinous accusations imaginable. Diddy is following the classic playbook for disgraced music moguls, ticking all the boxes. Reading the Bible in court to appear more religious? Check. Blaming everything on a dark time in his life when he was supposedly out of control? Check. Using his children to improve his public image, so the jury will wonder how such a loving father could be capable of such crimes? Check. But here's the catch. It's Diddy's kids, especially his daughters Chance, Jessie, and Delilah, who are bearing the brunt of his PR strategy. Reports say Jessie and Delilah were so shaken by the graphic details of Diddy's alleged behavior that they ran out of the courtroom in distress. Even the adults in the room were left speechless by the witnesses' testimony. On the first day, the prosecution called Israel Flores, a police officer who was working as a security official at the Intercontinental Hotel in March 2016. Flores testified that he received a call about a woman in distress and went up to investigate. When he arrived, he found Cassie and Diddy in the elevator lobby. Flores didn't immediately see any signs of victimization and noted that neither of them wanted to press charges, so he decided not to call the police. However, he testified that Diddy attempted to slip him hush money in an envelope, which Flores declined. He probably regretted that decision later, as he eventually saw Cassie leaving the hotel with a black eye. In her lawsuit, Cassie described how Diddy would bribe people, including the police, to keep quiet about his actions. It raises the question, how many times did Cassie try to get help, only to be sent back to Diddy because he had either bought people off or they were too afraid of him? The first witness left the courtroom stunned, but things took an even darker turn when the prosecution called its second witness, an escort named Daniel Phillip. Daniel testified that he was paid between $4,000 and $6,000 each time he engaged in sexual encounters with Cassie at Diddy's request. According to him, Diddy directed the encounters, telling Daniel and Cassie what positions to take while he sat back and watched. He even instructed Daniel on when and where to finish, often insisting that he not use protection. Daniel, uncomfortable with the idea, claimed that he would pretend to comply, but Diddy would press him, asking repeatedly if he was sure. Daniel went on to reveal even more disturbing details, saying that Diddy sometimes involved Cassie in humiliating acts, like golden showers, which Cassie clearly didn't want. He also claimed that Diddy continued the acts even when Cassie was choking and gasping for breath. According to Daniel, Cassie usually arranged the meetings, and during their first encounter, she asked if Diddy could watch. Diddy hid his face with a cap and bandana. These sessions, Daniel said, sometimes lasted up to 10 hours, with Diddy recording much of it. Daniel also shared that Diddy once took a photo of his driver's license, making it clear that if he ever spoke out about what happened, he'd be in serious danger. Things became even more twisted when Daniel described instances of Diddy physically abusing Cassie. He recalled an incident when Diddy dragged Cassie to another room because she didn't respond quickly enough to his call, and other times when Diddy dragged her by her hair or threw objects at her. Daniel even saw Cassie with severe bruises on her face, but when he asked her about it, she was too frightened to admit the truth, insisting she was fine.
male escort. He detailed his encounters with Diddy and Cassie, and he talked about the fact that Diddy liked to pleasure himself while watching Daniel and Cassie doing their thing. This was so graphic, apparently. Diddy's 3 daughters twice got up and left the courtroom. He talked about baby oil, how Diddy wanted him to rub baby oil all over Cassie and Cassie to rub it all over him.
It's hard to imagine how deeply unsettling it must have been to hear the graphic details of Diddy's alleged actions described in court. And it's no surprise that his children couldn't bear to hear everything their father is being accused of. Word on the street is that Chance, Delilah, and Jesse are taking it the hardest. During Daniel Phillips' testimony, they reportedly ran out of the courtroom and only returned when they felt composed enough to handle it again. This speaks volumes about the emotional toll the trial is taking on them. Insiders say that the twins, in particular, are reluctant to attend the trial any longer because it's deeply triggering for them. Things got even more intense when Cassie took the stand and began detailing the horrific abuse she endured at Diddy's hands. Cassie, who was 8 months pregnant, testified on the second day of the trial, and her testimony was heartbreaking. As the prosecution's star witness, her words carried significant weight with the jury. In the first part of her testimony, Cassie confirmed everything she had already stated in her lawsuit. She spoke about the constant fear she lived with for over a decade, how her promising music career was stifled, and how Diddy controlled every aspect of her life. She wrote hundreds of songs, but only a few were ever officially released. She was supposed to release 9 albums, but none of them saw the light of day, and she was never paid for her work. Diddy didn't just control her career, he controlled her entire existence. Cassie described how Diddy's trusted assistants, David James and Christina Karorum, kept tabs on her, ensuring she couldn't escape his grip. Even when she tried to leave, he would have people track her down. Diddy didn't tolerate her dating other men either. Even though he was seeing other women, he would threaten Cassie's boyfriends and even vandalize their cars. According to Cassie, Diddy eventually forced her to stop working on her music and focus exclusively on their disturbing encounters. She reached a point where she could only recover between these sessions. And then there were the Freak-off videos Diddy had been collecting over the years. The jury was shown these graphic videos with only the jurors and legal team allowed to watch them. Along with the videos, photos of Cassie's bruises were presented, bruises she suffered from the times Diddy allegedly abused her. Cassie recalled a particularly brutal incident when Diddy dragged her out of a party and she tried to escape into a bathroom, hiding under a toilet to avoid further violence. Diddy found her and continued to brutalize her until she was left with serious injuries. When Diddy's bodyguard entered and saw her, he broke down in tears, as did Diddy's manager. Her bodyguard brought her an ice pack to soothe her bruises, but Cassie always had to carry a gel to ease the pain of bruises, as the attacks were so unpredictable. As if that wasn't bad enough, Diddy allegedly ordered Cassie to cover her bruises with makeup when she was around his friends or children. Sometimes, he would send her to a hotel for up to a week to heal in isolation, making sure she couldn't return home, even if she wanted to visit her mom. We could spend hours going over Cassie's testimony, and it would only get more gut-wrenching, and she's not even done yet. Cassie continues to go over the texts, photos, and receipts the prosecution has presented to establish a timeline of events. But just when we thought it couldn't get any worse, the infamous hotel lobby footage was played in court. The video, which lasts about 15 minutes, shows Diddy throwing Cassie around like a rag doll while she tried to escape. He dragged her across the carpet, tripped her, and even threw objects at her. When she called for help, nothing happened. Apparently, Diddy paid the hotel $50,000 to suppress the footage, but there's no telling how much evidence has been erased over the years. Amidst all of this, Jesse and Delilah couldn't help but notice the striking similarities between Cassie's experiences and what they may have witnessed their mother go through during her time with Diddy. They were still young when Kim passed, so they might not have seen everything, but they surely noticed enough to know that their mother wasn't being treated well. Kim would often send the twins to stay with her best friend, Kamura Lee, when things became unbearable with Diddy, trying to shield them from the violence. But she couldn't always protect them from the truth. Kids are perceptive, and they pick up on the energy around them, even when they don't fully understand what's going on. After hearing Cassie's testimony, many of the pieces of their childhood are starting to fall into place. Like Cassie, their mother would often show up with unexplained bruises after long fights with Diddy. Insiders say Kim would isolate herself for days to recover from injuries, just like Cassie was forced to. Kim, too, was reportedly kept inside, cut off from her friends and family, as Diddy allegedly kept tabs on her every move.
Those girls should have never been in that courtroom. I don't know who thought it was a good idea for those young ladies to be in that courtroom as their father's sex life has been put on display. No, let's be for real. Delilah, Jesse, I don't know if Chance was there, but none of those young ladies should have been in that room. I know they're trying to do the sympathy card, having those kids sit there behind him and cry and look like they're scared, which they are scared. But it's not appropriate. That has got to be some hard stuff to digest, especially having a male escort detail what this man allegedly did to the ex-girlfriend that he was dating. We say traumatized? I can say traumatized. Honestly, if Diddy was smart, he would tell them no longer to show up in court. Do not show up here. Do not allow them to be put through that. They've already gone through enough. Why would you allow them to go into that courtroom knowing good and well your whole life that is in the dark is about to come to light? No child should see that shit.
It's clear that this trial is taking a heavy toll on everyone involved. At this point, Diddy may need to reconsider his PR strategy if he doesn't want to cause lasting trauma to his kids, if it hasn't already happened. What do you think about Diddy bringing his kids to the trial? Do you believe it's helping his case in any way? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to stick around for the next video.